into week number 5 of 7 in this book study of the desire factor. And what we're going to find today is where Christy Whitman took from the universal laws to create this book. It comes from the law that we're going to study today. And you can see as we look through that, how she began to place that into this book and created the 7 principles around the universal law. And don't forget Tuesday night. For those who have been coming, it's been the greatest Tuesday nights that I've been involved in since I've been here. Which, by the way, I was just counting, in 15 days will be 4 years. Hard to believe. But this has been a powerful study, especially for me, and what I get so blessed because the energy that's coming back, and as we work together in taking our vibrations to a different place and understanding how we can do it consciously, not all by happenstance, but now knowing that's where the security comes from. That's what the safety feels like, because it's like no matter what life brings, we have the tools to get ourselves back in alignment with what feels good. And when we're feeling good, we're in alignment with our inner true source, or source energy, or God, or whatever name you want to put to it. And it comes basically from this place. In the teachings of Einstein was, and this is 100 years ago almost, is that it's not about what's happening in the physical. It's everything is energy, and that's all there is, he said. But the second piece here is what most people miss in the quote. Match the frequency of what you want, and you cannot help get it. It's guaranteed because it's a universal law that works in alignment with that. And he went on to say it can be no other way. And this is not religion, it's not philosophy, it's physics, it's science, it's facts. It works. And that's one of the things I've been getting emails as we go through this. It's like, can it really be this simple? And the answer is yeah, it can. We make it complex. Our human ego wants to make it more complex than it is. But as we begin to implement these tools that we've been given through this process, things begin to fall away. And as that falls away, those ego human stuff, it opens us up for more of the positive energy. Our thoughts create our feelings create our vibrations. We now know exactly how to get back in alignment. If we're feeling not so good, we know there's a not so good thought that created it. And it gives us the way to work back to that immediately. Now, we can choose to spend 3 more days in that negativity. That's up to you. But you don't have to. And that's part of the change that's coming out of this teaching and the philosophy that comes. We've looked at universal laws here, and the 3 criteria that we look at over and over again. Number 1 is eternal, it's forever. Universal, everywhere, absolute, always the same. And I talked about this, this gives us the hints of some of the missing pieces of the secret behind the secret, or why didn't unity principles always work. And we begin to see as we apply these universal laws and become certain about how they work, we can become eternal, universal, and absolute in how we live our lives. So today we're moving to law number 5, the law of intention and desire. Nothing was created in this universe without these 2. Going back to source energy. When source energy decided it wanted to create a galaxy, had to set intention. Had to have the desire and set the intention that this was what was going to happen. We work exactly the same, as above, so below. Many, many times when I coach someone and they're confused or in overwhelm, I will ask that very simple question. What was your intention for this? And they go, well, I don't know. Just showed up. Well, when you just show up, you are living from default. You are living unconsciously. You're not living in self-awareness. And as we move more and more into intention and the desire, and this workshop coming up at the end of the month on Saturday, I'm going to teach a way to use intention and desire in every segment of your day. Because what happens if we just try to do it broadly, it gets overwhelmed. But as we begin to break it down in pieces, it becomes the old idea, you know, you got to eat that elephant one bite at a time. Well, that's kind of how we do with the intention to allow it to really take us to another place. The Rig Veda is thousands of years old. It's Hindu scriptures from thousands and thousands of years ago. And this is what it says about what we're talking about today, intention and desire. And what I love to go back in these kind of things and see what was here for thousands of years. This is probably predates Abraham and Moses, if you look at time frame of human development, human evolution. In the beginning there was desire, which was the first seed of mind. Sages, having meditated in their hearts, had discovered by their wisdom the connection of the existent with the non-existent, the physical with the non-physical. We've been talking about that for weeks now. You and I are made up of both, the physical and the non-physical. And what he was saying thousands of years ago, the way you begin to bring it into the physical or into the existent is through desire. It's the seed of the mind. And that's what this whole law is about. The law of intention and desire is based on the fact that energy and information exist everywhere. I'm going to show you a facts in here, and you can do the math because I couldn't figure out how big the number was. What's going on inside of you every second. There's so much incredible intelligence and information inside of you and I, let alone the universe. And as we talked in the last segment, that quantum physics says, we're only aware of 4% of what's actually going on. There's 96% of it we don't have a clue. And we're just beginning to see it in space, and we're beginning to see it inside of us. And what's happening in some of the fields right now in our technology that we've never dreamed possible, because we're beginning to learn some parts of the 96%. 2 weeks ago, a company in California completed a trial for the very first time inside a human body. They edited the genes of a defunct, dying liver. And this is called gene editing. It's one of the most incredible technologies starting to happen. And we would never been able to do that because we never had the computing capacity. But now through artificial intelligence, we can do the numbers to find out the protein within that liver inside the body that was creating the disease. And by injecting this in, no surgery, this editing of genes now has the intelligence to go in and remove the diseased genes. And it's happening all over. It's happening with people's eyes, and it's happening. I mean, this is what's happening right now technology-wise. Why? Because we're opening up to understanding that there's energy and information is the basis of all life. And we're doing that science-wise, we're now doing it spiritually. And we're getting that when they two come together, the most incredible things beginning to happen. The quantum field, we talk a lot about that. I love quantum mechanics and quantum theory, is another label for the field of pure consciousness or pure potentiality. We started, that was the first law, if you remember. Everything is possible. Everything is potential for you and me. But first we have to believe that it's true. Just like those scientists, the medical fields, were beginning to say, wait a minute, there's another way than cutting out the liver. There's a way to go in and make it well. Well, as we begin to open up to pure potentiality, that's the quantum field that is made up of only energy and information. That's it. It's the very same thing that's in your cells, my cells, and the tree cells, in the stars, the universe. It's nothing but energy and information. As we get connected to that energy flowing through us, as we just did, and we did some energy work with our chakras, which are your energy transmitters within your body, is 7 of them. The quantum field is influenced by what? So in the quantum field, you have particles and you have wave, and it's constant, and it exists. Now that's what people used to call God, right, back in the day. But it is influenced by this, intention and desire. The scientist says it's by observer. Same thing. The observer gives forth intention and desire, and out of the wave comes a particle and it begins to form and eventually form in the physical. That's why as we align ourselves now in the process that we're doing with exactly how creation works, scientifically, it must be so. It's the law. So a tree, a flower, and human beings have what in common? At their essence, at their nature, at their core, it's movement of energy and intelligence. No different than the piano has energy and intelligence. Moving at a slow rate so it looks like it's matter. Right? Same energy and information is moving within me and you and in the stars and in the trees. That's the basis. That's the nature. That's the essence. The human difference, we have one, basically. We have the ability to become aware of our reality objectively and subjectively. We can begin to make decisions like, I don't want this for me. Piano can't do that, tree can't do that. But you and I can look at something and say, I don't want that. That's called contrast. We come into this planet, into this life, experiencing contrast. Out of the contrast, instead of judging it and getting upset with it, if we embrace it, the contrast will tell us what we want. If we stay self-aware and say, okay, I don't want that. But so many of us get stuck in what I don't want. Instead of asking the question, what do I want? And begin to move into that place. And this leads, because of this power that we have as human beings, it leads us to our human personal power. The ability to choose. Nothing else that I just talked about can choose. Only you and I can choose. We can choose to stay the same, and we'll be the same forever and ever and ever. Amen. Or we can choose to say, this is not what I want something different. And that's the power, that's the personal power that you and I have as human beings. But choosing what and when. You say, well, the choices are so many. They're really not. They're two. What do I want? And does it feel good? And if we break it down to those, that essence, that simplicity, and not get tied up and entangled in the ego complicity and complicated. If we begin to ask this question over and over again, what do I want? You're going to always come back in alignment with your desires. And when you ask, does it feel good? If it feels good, you're in alignment with your true self or with source energy. So these are the two key questions. Now we've already talked about it. I think I've done this now 4 weeks in a row. The universe only has one answer, right? What is it?
Yes.
It's yes. Yes to anything you say you don't want or want. Because there is no no there. So if you say, well, I don't want to be sick, what's coming? Sick. It's the law. So that's where we have to choose and move, knowing that the universe always says yes, and knowing that the law of attraction will always bring what we put out with a thought and strong feelings. We have to move away from that to say, what do I want? What's really been interesting for me in my coaching has become very, very simple. Because these are the only questions I ask over and over again. There's no other questions. So what do you want there? Oh, I was focusing on what I didn't want. Yep. We all do. Why? Because that's how we were domesticated. That's how we were taught. That's what everyone around us does, do they not? They put all their energy in what they don't want. I don't want this, I don't want that. Then I go tell my friends. Then I put it on Twitter and Facebook. Call people. I don't do that much anymore. Text. About what you don't want. And the universe is like, okay, cool. I'll bring you everything you don't want. Because you get to choose. So this questions, and the second one is, does it feel good? And when we keep focused on those two, it will keep us in alignment with our divine plan. It's the universal law. We're going to talk about the 7th week of this. And it's how we know we are there within our divine plan. And it can only occur now. You can't do a thing about yesterday, or the past, or tomorrow, or the future. Your personal power exists only one place, and mine, in this moment. In this moment, I get to choose these two questions. Is it what I want? Does it feel good? Now, do I have some math experts here? I'm going to give you a math equation today. And if you can tell me how big this number is. A single cell in your body does 6 trillion things a second. We have around 6 trillion cells. So I know 6 times 6 is 36. But I don't have a clue what a trillion times a trillion is. It's so big. But this is what's going on within you and I. I got so excited with the number, I flipped recharge. 6 trillion things happen in a second on 6 trillion cells within your body. And those cells know what every other 6 trillion cells is doing in this moment. And comes in alignment with. That's a big number, folks. That's why we only know 4% of what's going on just in our own bodies. But as we align with source energy, we don't need to know how big that number is. We just need to know that we feel good and are we in alignment. Energy and intelligence moving everywhere in the universe. It's the basis, nature, essence of everything. And as we understand that and we align ourselves with that, is where the power comes. So our attention is in the moment, in the now. Our intention is for what we want in the future. But the only way we can put our intention is now. We can't put our intention to the future, but as we hold our attention, our intention takes us to the future, because this now becomes the future. And as I stay focused in the now and never go there, never worry about what's happening, never, oh, can I figure it out, but stay here present, it will take care of itself, because the law of attraction ensures it. It is a law. It cannot be any other way. And if you are manifesting right now something in your life that you don't want, you go back and look at how much energy you put into what you didn't want. Because the law never fails. It says yes. You talked about that, you put out the energy, you did all those things about what you didn't want, and now you have it. But not a problem, because the universe keeps saying yes. And we could just switch the intention and the desire and begin to get in alignment. Life-centered, present moment awareness overcomes 90% of your obstacles. In the now, focused on what you want. Is it feeling good? If the answer is yes, yes, and yes, 90% of the obstacles that you imagine were going to come up against you won't. And if you keep doing that every day in the now, that's how the future, how your legacy comes true. So here's 5 steps to follow, and we're going to integrate some of that into our guided meditation today. Number 1 is slip into the gap. I've been talking more and more about this than I have on Tuesdays. The gap is the gap between your words, your thoughts. That's where your true essence lies. It's the doorway into your pure consciousness, the doorway into your Christ self or Buddha nature, or whatever words you want to use. It's the gap between your thoughts. And as you practice going there, not trying to stop your thoughts, because they're going to keep coming, and they come from outside you and wherever. But as a thought comes by, there's an end of a thought, there's a gap. You want to go into that gap, because that's where your true essence lies. I call it my inner me, your inner you. You can call it many other names: soul, Christ self, higher self, true self. All mean exactly the same thing. It's where you're in total alignment with source energy or God. Number 2, in the gap, when you're there, is when you release your intention and your desire. Not in your head. It just becomes more jumbled thoughts and has no power, has no energy, and flashes by just like all the other thoughts. But when you're silent, goes the whole way back to King David, Psalms, be still and know that I am God. It's in that gap where you know God. And in that gap, when you release your desire, your intentions, it's like planting that in that field of pure potentiality, that quantum field. And all that energy that has created all these worlds goes to work on your idea. So in the gap, plant it. Release your intention and your desire. Remain in this state. Stay in your true self, inner me, and your soul. Stay there as long as you can. The thought's going to come, go back to gap. Now you're going to find as you do this and you practice this, you're going to stay in the gap longer. The gap widens for you and deepens. And as you're there, you're in the pureness of the divine. Number 4, I don't know about you, but this is the hardest piece for me in the 5, is to relinquish your attachment to the outcome. We want to go over that little seedling and just kind of pick it up and check, right? Is it growing on schedule? No, that's not our part of the job. Our job is to get in the gap, plant the seed, and let it go. That's the let go and let God. It's not let go and let God with no ideas, with no desires, no intention. That's our work. And many of us stay completely confused and overwhelmed and give no desires and no intention into the gap. But once it's planted and you release it and you made a choice and made a desire, it's time to let it go. Not our job to figure out the details. Enjoy each and every moment. It's perfect. Breathe into it. Relax. Let it be. And finally, let the universe handle all the details. I say here, stay out of the minutia. We like to get in there and dig in the minutia. It's not our job. Our job is to hold desire, hold intention in the gap, and release all the other. The universe knows how to do this. It's been doing this a whole lot longer than you've been here. And you only know 4% of it anyway. Let's turn it over to the knows 100% of it. And that's the opportunity that we have. So the principle, today, principle number 5, is the principle of loving. Last week, if you remember, I said is one of the more difficult, I thought, is moving to having. Where in our spirit, in our non-physical, we already have what our desire is. That's the piece that most people miss. You know, Jesus said it this way, ask, but believe you already received it. That's the principle of having. The next principle goes on top of having. It's the next step of the process, and that's the principle of loving. Let's talk about that for a minute. You've seen this spiral many times now. the upward spiral, the downward spiral, and we need to be at least at contentment to be in the upward spiral. And it goes from 1 to 22. And we've been using this on Tuesday nights. Last Tuesday we talked about how to know where we are in that, because once we know where we are, one step up is a positive move. Many times when I work with someone coaching, they may be at 22, powerlessness, depressed, total grief. If they can get to anger, it's a huge shift. And most people, and coaches included, and therapists will say, well, you can't live in anger. That's a bad place to go. But in this moment, it's the best you've got to do to go up. And you can go from 22 to 15. You started moving to a better place. That's what I love about this system. That's what I love, because it's a natural spiral that we all do when we're moving from here to here. Right? So once we get to 7 as contentment, where's love on this? And joy? At the top. Unconditional love we're talking about, right? Not conditional. That's human love. I'll love you if you take care of my needs. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about unconditional. I love it no matter what. And that love is up at number 1. So the principle of loving. The object of love expands and grows before us to eternity until it includes all that is lovely, and we become all that can love. Thoreau said that. Learning to love at this level is something we have to learn because we weren't taught it. We have to begin to experience it. We have to feel it within ourselves. We need to be loved at this level before we have to offer it to anyone else. And that's one of the first things I will ask someone in coaching when they say, I just don't feel loved. This is where you've got to go. You have to get the connection with the divine, with the source energy within, to feel loved at this level. Until you have that, you cannot love someone else at that level. You don't even know what it is. So you don't have it to give. And that's part of what this principle is talking about. The Dalai Lama said this, and I love this quote. There are only 2 days in the year that nothing can be done. One is called yesterday, and the other is tomorrow. Today is the right day to love. It has to happen again in this moment. And as you begin to feel loved unconditionally, then you have something to share to someone else. The pure energy of love is what created you, me, the stars, the oceans, all the worlds. Love is a creative force in the universe. Our desires come out of that. They're fueled by this unconditional love. And this is where a lot of spiritual people have an issue. They're sort of like, well, is it really spiritual for you to desire a Mercedes? Yeah. Everything's spiritual. There's nothing in the universe that's not spiritual at the basis of it. So what you choose your desire is, and it's in alignment with your source energy, the answer is yes. There's not material and physical. That's duality. This oneness of spirit is the oneness of this unconditional love flowing into you and through you, allows anything of your desires that fall in alignment with that, and you can believe that you can have, you will have. Be, do, and have. Love is this incredibly powerful force. We don't often think of it. We think as human beings, we think of love as an emotion. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the energy that flows through you. The energy that you may have felt connected today when we did the energy work, that's the unconditional love flowing. It's the force of creativity, force of creation. And as that flows through us, it fuels every desire on the act of creation. When you are attuned to this vibration of unconditional love, you will rise above all negativity, all disbelief, and all drama. You don't have to get entangled anymore in their stuff. You can let it be. And you can allow this energy to flow through you, and it will lift you up above it all. Love conquers all in the physical realm. But it's not our go-to, usually. But as we begin to get more in alignment with that, and we can begin to feel this within ourselves, and as it fills us up, we begin to vibrate at this. And what we vibrate at, I don't know about you, but I want to vibrate at the energy that created everything. Because that will allow me to create anything I have a desire for, and you. So this is our work to do, is getting connected in this principle of loving, in this unconditional love, that we are loved at that level, which allows us to love all others. So love transmutes all lower vibrations. When you go back to that spiral, everything below that gets transmuted when you're in this love. It will go away. It will no longer be. The way we nourish our relationship with what we stated our desire is this way, through loving attention, imagination, and energy. So go back 5 weeks. I asked you all to pick a desire. The question I have for you now on week 5, are you loving your desire? And if you're not, you're missing the creative force behind your desire. So we have to move to a place of, last week was having it, right? So I said this week takes it another notch. Not only do we have it in our minds and we can feel it's happening in non-physical, but now we begin to put the force of unconditional love to our desire. And that takes it a whole nother level. Because it's the force that created everything in the universe. As you and I align with it, it must bring what our desire is. It's the law. So our job is to evolve, always, right? If the universe is growing 12% a year, you and I need to be growing 12% a year or we're falling behind. Just to keep up. So evolution of ourselves, evolution of our thoughts and our minds and our emotions and our physical bodies are evolving all the time, and we get to choose what that evolution is. But right now what we're talking is you want to move from the principle of having of last week to principle of loving, whatever your desire is. And as you get into that energy, and you can feel that as you put it into your desire, it will begin to have higher frequency. It'll have a higher vibration. And the higher and the stronger the vibration, the faster the law of attraction in the universe will bring your desire. This is the second piece that I see missing so many times in the process of creation. So she had a couple ideas in that book. I took 7 of them. She said, and this is how you know where you're starting to align with this principle of loving. Are you seeing through the lens of appreciation versus looking for lack? Are you giving and receiving freely, which is the flow of the universe, or are you not open? Are you opening your heart, or are you closing it? Are you expecting the best in everyone, or are you worrying that the worst is about to happen? These are all indications of where you are and what you're doing and enacting this principle of loving. Are you coming from your heart, or are you lowering your energy and moving into drama? Getting entangled in the ego just draws you deeper and deeper and deeper. Paying attention to universal clues versus operating unaware. Are you unconscious? Are you just doing the same thing you've been doing and getting the same thing you've always been getting? That is not coming from the principle of love. Are you acting from your integrity versus compromising your values or ideas? These are choices you and I get to make. And one of them keeps us in alignment with the principle of love. And the other ones will take us somewhere different. The energy of appreciation is one of the most attractive, magnetic, and powerful energies in the universe. it's a great way to begin. Are you appreciating your desire? Because what you and I appreciate appreciates. Right? Appreciation means goes up in value. So if you and I are appreciating, we're putting love into our desires, it's going to grow bigger and bigger in energy in the universe. So I have put this to my affirmations, or what I want. I love my desire, with whatever your desire is. But this is the one I just moved into a couple weeks ago, and the energy and the vibration for me has been amazing. I love feeling joy. I love feeling happy and free. Put love into whatever your desire is for the emotions of your life. And for the material things, doesn't matter. They're the same, they're all spiritual. But begin to put your love into it and really feel it. I love that idea. I'm having it, I get it, it's coming, I feel it, and I love it. And it takes the whole vibration to another level. Rumi says this, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. That's our homework assignment for this week. What barriers have you built against unconditional love? There's many places to look. Judgment, resentment, anger, depression, grief. Where are they on this emotional scale? Will tell you. If you're somewhere below contentment, number 7, you have a barrier that's slowing this down. And as we release them, and there's many, we've talked about many tools from Tuesday nights to do that. Many ways to release those barriers. You want to be wide open. You want to first feel unconditionally loved. And when you get that, then the rest of it begins to fall in place. So I'm going to add something into today that we haven't done here before. We did some on